Hey, welcome back, of course, to your Tuesdays. We're cruising along 2025 elections. Some very important elections going on, too, but there's also other news out there when we talk about what is going on with Arctic frost, an investigation that ABC, CBS, and CNN has decided not to touch at all, which tells you that there's probably something there. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the shutdown. And, of course, to join us, our friend, someone who knows New Hampshire very well, knows all these topics extremely well. We'll post his information up online as well. David Bossie, Citizens United. David, how are you this morning?
Oh boy, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on again. And it's a big day, in many states, with elections today.
Well, you know these races pretty well. You know New Jersey well and Virginia well. The one thing is talk a little bit about what you look at when you see this landscape, but also there are some pundits out there who are reading an awful lot into these races, and I don't think they're factually getting them correct. They are important races, but there are other underlying things that I would probably look at more than just the winners and losers.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And let me just say, I've been doing media now for a couple of weeks consistently leading up to today's election day about Virginia and New Jersey. And Prop 50 out in California, and obviously the well-talked about mayor's race in New York City. The common denominator that I try to get through to everybody is we're having a conversation about how close elections are, win or lose, how close these elections are in deep blue jurisdictions, deep blue states, deep blue cities. These are not red states that we're trying to hold on to with our fingernails. These are deep blue states that we are trying to take over. That is what common sense policies, that is what common sense leadership gets you. And that's what Donald Trump has brought to the party. People agree with him, disagree with him on policies. They like how he operates. They don't like how he operates. They understand he speaks truth to power. He's incredibly intuitive. He has his finger on the pulse, and he gets things with a common sense solution that reverberates. And that's what swept him back into office with a historic reelection 1 year ago. And I think that's one of the things we're talking about here. New Jersey is down to the wire, literally down to the wire. Nowhere in America since Chris Christie won over 12 years ago has there been a Republican elected statewide in New Jersey. It doesn't happen. And Jack Ciattarelli is on the precipice. If they get turnout numbers the way they need to, he is going to be elected. It is incredibly exciting. And in Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, historically, when a Republican wins the White House, a Democrat will win the governor's mansion. That and the reverse is also true. When a Democrat wins the White House, a Republican wins the governor's mansion. That's just the way the state operates. Historically, in the last 25 years, it's only not happened once. So this is the headwinds, and the voter registration and the issues are not in our favor. But you know what is? The voters. And that's what makes this election day so much different. And that's why Donald Trump is emboldened to take on these tough issues and figure them out with some common sense, unlike what's happened in the last generation or two.
Well, it's interesting. That was great analysis, David. Once again, we're talking to David Bossie. The interesting thing is, one, the amount of money that the Democrats have had to spend in Virginia and New Jersey far exceeded, at least by 60% of what they thought they were going to have to spend. That says something out of the gate. The other thing is I don't know if you noticed it or not, but the issues that they're talking about, not the 2024 issues. We're not getting abortion. We're not getting boys in men's locker room. They're trying to run away from them as much as they can. They're trying to stay focused on the economy. So messaging. Clearly, the Republicans have gotten in the minds of the Democrats to push the issues and to make them spend money.
Well, you just look at this Democrat socialist running for governor in New Jersey. She is running around the state as fast as she can, talking about lowering taxes, cutting regulation. She's talking about Republican policies because the voters in New Jersey don't want to hear. They're done hearing about we're going to raise your taxes and make things in your life more difficult. They're done with it. And so You look at, to your point, the issues are ours now. They are dedicated to having to talk on our issues, and they're not prepared for it. Nobody believes it. They don't have, the connection. Donald Trump was an authentic guy. He's a blue class, what did we call him? A blue class billionaire. He connects with people because he's authentic. Even though he's a rich guy, he's authentic. He feels your pain, he understands it, and he wants you to be successful for you and your family. And that's the difference between the Republican and Democrat in New Jersey. And quite honestly, that's the difference between Mondani and Cuomo. Cuomo at least believes in the free market. Yeah. I don't disagree that he's a liberal, okay? But he is an old-fashioned, Kennedy-esque liberal, not a socialist liberal. And that's going to be the difference today. And I do believe Mondani unfortunately wins, right, but he's going to not win with 50% of the vote. I think you're going to see some erosion today in Sliwa's vote because people don't want to go and waste their vote. So when you walk into the ballot box, you say, hey, you know what, I'll vote for Cuomo just to make it close and to send a message. And I think you're going to see some of that today. And I think we're going to see some upsets as well.
Well, you bring up a really good point, too, Dave. Once again, we're talking to David Bossie, Citizens United, about the mayor's race in New York City. Many Democrats at the leadership level did not want him to potentially win if he does, in fact, win. They looked at it as the proverbial dog catching the ice cream truck or grabbing a tiger by the tail, because by the time he's in power and goes through some of his policy points, they will be rearing their ugly head in 2026, which will then only resonate in states like New Hampshire that are in really heavy battleground situations for the federal delegates.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And let me just say, New Hampshire needs to get behind redistricting. Republicans win a lot of votes in New Hampshire, and to have two solid blue congressional districts is just out of hand. There should be 1 and 1. That's fairness. That represents New Hampshire, and that needs to get done. And I urge that the governor and the legislature do that. But we have issues that are on our side. We have and Mondani, just to be clear, Mondani is going to pivot as soon as, because to your point, the second he wins, if he wins, he is going to pivot from running for mayor to running for president, because that the party of Kennedy, the party of Bill Clinton, the party, the Democrat Party that our parents grew up with, our grandparents grew up with, is dead when Mondani wins. It is dead and gone. It is now the Socialist Party, and they have to the Democrats have to get used to that, and that's what they're not going to like. They're not. There's a lot of Democrats who are still Democrats, not socialists, but they get caught up in this fervent, hardcore leftist primary debate that they get into, and they have to continue. They have to move left to win. But I got to tell you, this is a dangerous precipice we're on for America.
Yeah, I think what we end up seeing is a second wave like we saw in 1979, where a lot of Democratic blue-collar workers walk away from the Democratic Party and end up joining the Republican Party. And I see all the same landscape indicators when I look at that part. Hey, David, I'll let you comment on that before I let you go, though. I do want to talk a little bit about the shutdown. So, we're going to have a record at the end of the day. So I don't know if you're going to go run out in the street and say we're number one. But, the problem here is that it has become abundantly clear. Brett Baer did a great newscast last night where he said, look, it's become abundantly clear to the American people. I hear this on the Washington Journal news show every morning, where Democrats are calling in and say, this is a clean CR. Vote for the darn clean CR. So they're getting their own members turning away, but they still seem, David, to be latching on to that last part you just talked about. They're latching on to a socialist movement that I don't think has substantial legs to it.
Well, it does not. And look, this is unfortunately, and because this is the part that we kind of that gets glossed over here. This is Joe Biden's CR. This is Chuck Schumer's CR. Hakeem Jeffries' CR. They drafted this CR. This is a CR that continues from that time period. We're just saying, unfortunately, and because I want to see cuts to this budget. Okay, we are on an unsustainable path to decline. Okay, let's just be honest about it. We all know it. People don't want to talk about it, but that's where we are. We're on an unsustainable spending path. We have to cut it. The CR is our best chance to continue to move towards responsible spending policies. And the Democrats, their CR, their clean CR, their history of wanting to keep the government open, out the door. It's all politics to them. They don't care about what happens to the average American voter. They just want to create consternation and unease. And let me just say this, with a historic shutdown, Virginia and New Jersey, deep blue states, for them to be this close, no Democrat would have said that would be the case 35 days ago. They would have said this is going to get us guaranteed locked up those two elections. And your point earlier, they have had to spend a lot of money and time and effort and resources to make sure they try to win these races, and they still may not do that. That's what's exciting for the Republicans, because we are in a position to win the majority of the states. We're going to be in power when this government reopens, and we're going to get to the business of the American people and get our financial house in order.
Yeah, and 2026 in the Midwest is really going to be a shocker for Democrats as well. I think that trend. Hey, David, I know you're back to back. You're doing a lot of shows right now. I do have to ask you before you let you go, Arctic Frost. If I'm not mistaken, I believe your organization was maybe one of the organizations they looked into. Are you? I won't say it that way. I won't say are you surprised. It fascinates me that once again the corporate media in this country, NBC, CBS, CNN, have all done zero on this story in any kind of substantial way. And yet when you hear about this story, it should frighten a lot of Americans, because if they can do this to groups that you know and to senators and House members, they can do it to anyone.
Well, that's right. They did it to me. Yep. My name is all throughout the subpoenas and investigative documents that have been released, and we were subpoenaed. In secret, obviously, what they did is they made a mistake in their overreach and their zealousy in targeting sitting United States senators. That's what's getting the attention. But it's not shocking to you, and it's not shocking to me. The same media, mouthpieces of the Democratic Party, the mainstream media, who said that Russia against Donald Trump was real, and said that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda, okay, and was Trump propaganda, are not covering this as well. And it's why the media has lost credibility. They do not cover things equally. We know it. We know it inherently, and we see it every day. And what do? They don't surprise us. They do it again. They're not covering this story, but the American people understand it. And they understand exactly what you said. If they can do it to me, they can do it to a United States senator. They sure can do it to you.
Yeah, and some journalists were on that list, too. It's a shame. Hey, David, we're going to let you go. We posted information up online. Always appreciate it when you come in. Let's catch up in a couple weeks after these elections settle down a little bit and talk about 2026.